Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelo Rocha. I am the host of Vet for Vets, a show where I sit down with local Johnson County veterans and we discuss their life before, during, and after their military service. Today, my veteran guest is a founding member of a local VFW chapter out of Cleburne, Texas, and is an accomplished world traveler. He's also a wildlife activist highly against poaching of endangered animals. He's a former sergeant of the United States Army National Guard and served as a medic in support of Iraqi freedom from 2004 to 2009. Please welcome my guest, an awesome veteran named John Laureles. How
Thank
are
you.
you, John?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You might want to bring that up just a little bit.
All right.
There
Let's
you
see
go.
what I can do.
Oh, you got it. You just bring it up to you.
All right.
There you go.
Good.
So, how's life been since getting out of the military?
That's a pretty loaded question. Uh, it's been a lot of things. It's definitely has its ups and downs, I guess you could say. But it's been good overall so far, and I think the VFW has been one of the greatest things about my life after the military.
Oh, that's cool. So, we're going to be talking about your life with the VFW, you founding that chapter in a little bit. First, I just want to mention that if you are a veteran in crisis or you're concerned about one, please call the free suicide crisis hotline at 988. Yes, that's 988. It's that simple. Then you press one, you'll be pretty much attached to a real qualified person or somebody who actually knows how to talk to people, not just some, POS that has no idea what they're doing. And you can also text 838-255, and you'll be attached to somebody who's also well qualified. Once again, that's 988. Listen, if there's one thing to take away from today's show would be that you are not alone. The Veterans Crisis Hotline works and is there for you. Listen to me. Your life has meaning. Your life does matter. Your life means so much to so many people. Please don't give up, especially if you are a veteran in need. There's a lot of help out there for you. We've had countless guests here explain to you that they've been in situations where they needed somebody to talk to and they actually reached out to somebody. Okay. Maybe John here today can talk to you some of the things that he's done for veterans here in Johnson County. So, and today we're going to be talking to John, man to man, about his time in the service before, during, and after his time in the military service. So, John, where'd you grow up at?
Uh, Originally, I'm from Bangs, Texas, small town just south of Brownwood. Some of you may know Brownwood just from the old football rivalries.
Hmm.
I moved to Cleburne when I was about in the fifth grade, and pretty much been in Cleburne most of my life. Although I've done some traveling and lived a couple other places.
You told me you've traveled the world quite a bit. Africa? I mean, come on, who could say
Just
they've been to Africa?
got back from South Africa
Oh,
actually
oh, even better.
in October. Yeah,
Still Africa.
right, right. It still counts.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so yeah, I moved to Cleburne, made a lot of friends here, and the community's really grown on me. It's great to see friends that I've grown up with since elementary
Yeah,
school still around, and they have families and their kids know each other and stuff like that. So there's a really great sense of community there that I really love, and I'll always call it home. So
that's cool. Oh, I mean, that's pretty cool. So, do you have parents that that are still alive? Do you have parents that you want to talk about? Maybe some siblings you want to talk about?
yeah, my dad actually passed away years ago. I was just turned 16. My mom is still around, and she's in Cleburne as well, not far from my house. And my brother's down the street with his daughter and my niece, and so we get to hang out pretty often. It's nice to have
That's cool.
family close and supportive. I also have an oldest brother. He's still in Brownwood Bangs area, so
Brownwood.
yeah, he stuck around there. I got out. I'm glad I did, and I like it much better up here. So.
So, where? So you were in the U.S. Army, right?
Yes, the Army National Guard.
So how many years were you in?
I joined in 2003 and I left in 2010, towards the end of
Oh,
2010.
nice. We're going to be talking about what led you to the military in a little bit and why you chose the National Guard.
Okay.
and
Yep.
not active duty. Maybe there's a reason behind it, but we'll get to it in a little bit. So, what kind of things did you do growing up as a young kid?
Well, as a kid, I was fortunate enough to be born in 1980, which is, I
Wait,
think,
you mean to tell me I'm older than you? I was
you're,
born in '79.
yeah, I may look older, but I probably got more deployments than
No,
you,
yeah,
so
I,
a lot of that may be contributed to time.
no, you and I are practically the same age. Come on,
Yeah, so yeah, 1980, 1990s, those were good years without the internet, and kids were still running
respectful.
around playing outside. I was not always respectful, honestly, as a teenager. I was a bit of a rebel, but I grew out of that sort of, and here I am. But yeah, my childhood was great. I wouldn't want to live in any other time.
Do you remember doing something as a kid that kind of sticks out in your mind even now that you remember doing as a child? Maybe a story about your family, because we've had some really great guests explaining some good stories.
Mhm.
We've had a man named Fernando Marin. He was telling about a fantastic story about his dad. And one time when he went barefoot through this Mexican town, it was just so touching. And I was wondering if you have a story like that about you as a little kid.
No, my childhood was kind of boring in Bangs. Small town, not a lot to do, but it was still great because, like I said, it was before the internet and before people were so worried about something bad happening,
Yeah.
and we could ride our bikes, out into the countryside, and until it got dark and come home. And,
Oh man, that's
you
the
know,
good old days. You can't do that now. Everybody's so
right?
scared.
Yeah, it's a shame, but yeah. So that's pretty much my early childhood.
Do you have any memories in high school?
High school, I got in a lot of trouble in high
Well,
school.
you want to talk about some of
Uh,
those times you're troubled?
no,
Yeah.
not really. That's
With
a
some law
bit
enforcement people
incriminating,
listening, yeah, it's like, wait, that's the
mostly.
guy.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. But it was a lot of fun. Luckily, I didn't get into too much trouble legally.
Yeah.
I probably got away with more than I should have, but I'm thankful for those experiences, and a lot of good times, a lot of parties.
Oh,
I'd
really?
always throw parties,
Oh, really?
and yeah,
I bet you they
sometimes
were good, weren't they?
they got pretty big at times. Yeah, so a lot of good times there. Um, I went to I got in a little bit of trouble in high school. I remember the principal was saying that they wanted to send me to alternative school because they
Oh,
felt that I
nice.
was getting bored in my classes, and that's why I was causing trouble. I was like, yeah, there's some truth to that. And I wanted to go to alternative school. So my friends were already there, and I knew that it was self paced, and I liked that. And I did really well there. I loved the teachers that they had there, and Nancy Davis being one of them. And I just learned that Nancy Davis, they named the new team school after her.
Oh, that's
That
cool.
was really touching because she is a really, really awesome person.
So she was a good mentor.
Yeah, she definitely was to me and to a lot of people.
That's what was going to be my next question. If you had any mentors growing up, because some people choose their dad, their mom, but I was hoping for somebody outside of their family, somebody that touched their hearts. Like me back in middle school, I had just stayed back because my teacher at the time was was a horrible teacher, and I didn't like her, and they stood me back. And but the next year, I really thought I was just going to be a failure again. But my teacher, his name was Mr. Landy, Mike Landy, and he's from Harrison, New Jersey. All the way. I'm a Yankee, just so you know. And he he understood how I was feeling. He was almost empathetic, and he got me into art. He got me into sports, and he got me into all of these things. And I was just wondering if he had somebody like that. And I guess that teacher is that person.
Yeah, definitely. Nancy Davis was a great mentor for me during the time. Growing up, like I said, was getting a little bit of trouble, and my friends were, you know, going down the same path, and she saw us for just she saw the good in us,
Yeah, I got
and
you. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna adjust the microphone a little bit.
okay, yeah. So she saw the good in us, and was always, open to listen to whatever we had to say, and
Yeah.
understood where we were coming from, and was just there to help. And she had such a big heart, and even though we could be a bit of bad kids, bad attitudes and stuff like that. She just somehow just turned all that into positivity whenever you're around her. It
Yeah.
was really, really awesome.
From the sounds of it, I mean, your life has pretty much flipped around. I mean, you were saying you were a little bit of a troublemaker, but now you're a wildlife activist. You hate people that poach endangered animals. That's kind of a big turnaround. People who usually grow up with a lot of trouble usually don't care about stuff. So I guess maybe could attribute that to maybe the military giving you a little bit more demeanor. It gives you a little bit more. I guess I can explain. It gives you more of that solid base you need growing up. Would you say the military did that?
Yeah, I think so to a degree. I think that just I think that maturity was a natural part of me growing up, whether it was joining the military or not. My adolescence, I was a bit of a rebel, but I think there was some truth in what they were saying. Is I just got bored in class, so you know I stirred up some
I
trouble in
I
there. That's just
understand.
kind of
One of my daughters
how
is the same
kids
way.
act out, right? Right,
One of
and
my
I
daughters the
understand
same
that
way.
a little bit more now that I'm older, but yeah, and I think that the same went for a lot of other people that I went to school with in alternative school. Uh, we weren't high school students. We were young adults,
I
and
understand.
we were into other things. And but a lot of the people that a lot of my friends that I went to alternative school with, had a reputation for that's where the bad kids go.
Yeah.
They're all doing really well. They own their own businesses. They have
The
high
rebelling
possession
led to all of that.
positions. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's a good thing for a lot of people. It's just something kind of a way that you know younger adults or teenagers test their boundaries
Yeah.
and express themselves and kind of explore of how much they could get away with
Yeah.
sometimes.
Did you
Um,
like to do anything like music, sports, drawing? Some people usually have a talent. You have a talent maybe that a lot of people don't know about you here in Johnson County?
well, these days I play a little bit of music. Um, I like to play piano a little bit and guitar a little
Piano.
bit.
If
Um,
you told me you played piano, I
I don't look
wouldn't.
like a
Yeah, you don't look.
pianist,
You don't look like somebody who plays piano.
right? And I also recently bought a cello, and I've been trying to learn that.
Oh
I think it's a
wow,
beautiful instrument. So
that's cool, man.
maybe someday I'll get good enough to be able to play
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
of
I
songs.
could tell you. I'm going to tell you right now, John. You are really nervous.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
could
Well,
feel your nervousness. It's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I probably
Just
warm up too.
it's
So
just me and you. Just if you're listening and you want John to open up a little bit, send us your questions. If you have a
yeah,
question for John about the VFW chapter or anything, just send us and I'll ask John that question. Doesn't matter who you are. John has the ability to send you to the right direction, and maybe he might send you to the right direction if you want to call in or you want to message us or leave a little comment. I'd really appreciate it.
yeah, sure.
So, John, when my first job, John, it was it's weird that I'm saying this, but it was breaking down back boxes for Kodak.
Uh,
Kodak, where they made the cameras, and I would break down the boxes. That was literally my first job. What was the first job that you can recall growing up?
my very first job, like many, was McDonald's.
McDonald's.
McDonald's, yes.
But you loved that
Oh
job, didn't
man,
you?
no, I hated that job. I had to open up for them, so I had to go in like at
Oh
4:30 in the
gosh, that's
morning.
the worst.
I remember going and picking up all the balls from the playground
Yeah.
off the ground, and it was so cold they were frozen to the ground, and my hands were just so cold that day. Um, yeah, not the highlight of my career,
Yeah.
but it was a good experience.
So, how was life back then compared to what it is now?
Life back then in the '90s,
Yeah,
oh,
90s, 80s, how you remember growing up before you are who you are today after post military. How
mhm.
would you say life was back then?
Life for me was a little bit reckless. I think I had a lot of freedom back then, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. So I just kind of hung out and had parties, and
You had fun.
yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'd go to Dallas a lot back in the '90s, mid '90s. Those kind of underground punk rock scene that was brewing, and there was a lot of punk rock music going on in Dallas and Fort Worth. And I'd go to those shows with a few of my friends that were really into it, and that was really awesome. I don't think that there's going to be I mean, there may be shows like that out there still, but this was
I'm
the
sure if
days
you
of
seek
the
it out,
mosh pits.
I'm sure if you
I
seek it
don't
out,
know if
it'll be
there's
there.
any mosh pits anymore these days, but it
Good
was a lot of
old.
fun.
They probably do have that type of stuff. You just
Yeah,
got to seek it out.
right, right,
It's kind of like how religion.
right.
God is out there. You just need to search him out. Once you search for him, you're stuck.
Sure.
But okay, so what? So you're in high school, right? You go through your troubled phase.
Yeah.
You get near the end of high school. You have
Mhm.
no idea what you're gonna do. What made you decide to walk into MEPS and say, "Hey, I want to go ahead and join the military"?
Well, at the time, I was living in Bangs again, and actually in Rising Star, which is an even smaller town.
Rising Star. Never heard of
Rising
Rising
Star,
Star.
Texas. Yeah, I can't even tell you how many people live there, but not many.
Pie on a hen.
Uh, yeah, I lived on like 280 acres at the time. I was
Wow.
just basically there to keep an eye on this guy's property. Rent was cheap, and it was fine. It was actually kind of cool out there. But I kind of started to wonder, what am I really doing with my life out here? What am I going to do? What is my purpose? And I've always been interested in the medical field, and I did a little bit of schooling in that prior to joining. But yeah, so I decided I wanted to help people, and I wanted to join the Army as a medic. But I wanted to join the Army National Guard because I'm not sure what was happening during that time or that year, but there was always something, whether it's hurricane or earthquake and different stuff like that. And I always just felt the need or desire to want to be there and help the people that needed help. And I saw that the National Guard was, out there doing that, and I wanted to be part of that. So
Nice.
that's what
Nine
I.
11 didn't have anything to do with that.
No, it didn't actually.
Most
It,
people that join after 9/11 usually join because they wanted to fight terrorism and they wanted to
right,
go do something for their country.
right. No, yeah, and of course that did affect me in a way, um, as it did everyone, but that wasn't really the catalyst that sent me over there.
What
Um,
was the catalyst, if you don't mind me asking?
well, like I said, I was just kind of looking for what my purpose was for here, and what I needed to do next, and fulfilling that desire to help people.
Did you have a family,
And
husband, a wife,
no,
kids,
single,
nothing, just
single,
single?
yeah,
Did you
single.
have
So
family that were supportive of your decision to join the military?
yeah, I think they were a bit surprised because they known me as kind of free spirit, you know, wild child, and didn't
Troublemaker.
really, yeah, a bit of a troublemaker. Didn't really expect me to do that. I don't think I never really talked about it, over the years or growing up. I never really expressed that's what I wanted to do. So I think they were a bit surprised, but they were very supportive.
Nice. So, did they have any feelings saying goodbye to you?
Oh yeah, of course. You know how moms are. They
Oh,
get
absolutely.
emotional every time you
My
leave.
family got
So
emotional.
yeah, yeah, but they're really proud of me, and that's it's nice to be there and make my family proud.
No.
And it was a little bit later I learned that my grandfather, my mom's dad, was in the army, and he was a medic also. And
Wow. That's
he,
weird that you
yeah,
didn't know and you just did the same thing he
right,
did.
right.
Out of all
So
the occupations you could have chosen.
exactly. So I think I have a little bit of that DNA in me running through my veins. So
So
yeah.
that's cool. So how was your experience with MEPS?
MEPS, I've really kind of blocked a lot of that part out of my brain just because it was so long and
It
boring.
is very long and boring, but you got to go through it because they
Yeah,
have to make sure that you're capable, fully capable of doing whatever it is that you're going to be
yes.
going through.
It was a great uh, taste of the hurry up and wait philosophy
That's literally
in the
the
military.
ultimate place to go and do that.
Yes.
Hurry
So,
up, then you wait.
right.
Hurry up, then you wait.
Yeah. So I remember them telling me, I think my GT score or something was like 1 point too low to be a medic. And I was so devastated. And I told them, well, if I can't go in as a medic, then I'm not going in. I don't want to do this. That's the only thing that I want to do.
Yeah,
That's the only
it's
reason
your
I'm here.
decision because you are volunteering
Right.
to join the military.
Exactly. And the guy, he said okay and
Wavered
signed
you
off
in.
on me. Yeah. Yeah. So
1.5 points, I mean, lower than you're supposed to be. I mean, come
right.
on.
Yeah.
And then you get in and you realize some of those people are probably 20 points lower than than you are, because
Right.
some
Yeah.
military people aren't fit for their job, and you know this.
Yeah. Well, the ASVABs is a strange test anyway.
Did you take it seriously when you took it? Like, I didn't take it seriously when I took it,
No,
because I
I
had no
didn't
intention of
prepare
joining.
at all. I didn't do any kind of studying
Yeah.
or
If I knew
pre-test
that,
or anything like that.
if I knew 20 years ahead that the ASVAB was as important as it was back then, I would have taken it more seriously. Then maybe I would have gotten the job I actually wanted, not
Right.
just a job that was offered to me.
Right. My recruiter didn't really prepare me for any of that. It was just kind of, oh, you're gonna have to take this test,
Yeah.
whatever, blah blah. It's on this paper. Got a maps. I'm like, okay. So I did, and luckily, I had a high enough score to get me where I wanted to go, even though
Nice.
it wasn't. I still got in, so that was a good sign for me.
Nice.
Um, yeah. So then I went to basic training
Where'd you go?
at Fort Leonard Wood,
Ooh, been
Missouri.
there.
Yeah, during the winter.
There's nothing out
Not a
there.
lot of fun.
No, it's not.
But it actually kind of was. I enjoy chaos, and when people are just, I don't know, just done. It's fun for me to experience things like that, and so
So
that,
you're
that
the
was a
person
lot.
that stirs, like, somebody's
A
in
little
trouble,
bit.
you can just kind of stir it, make it just a little bit
A
more
little
worse for
bit.
them.
Yeah, getting smoked. It was just like hilarious for me.
Nice.
Luckily, I was able to handle the push-ups and sit-ups or whatever. I
Yeah.
didn't die. But yeah, the drill sergeants. The hardest thing for me was not to laugh at the drill sergeants because they're such characters, and you
They
know how
are.
they are.
They're made to be like that,
Right.
because they're meant to break you down, make you feel like a piece of shit,
Right.
or make you feel like crap, and then they build you back up to make you the soldier that you should be.
Right. Yeah, and I was a little bit older when I went. And I was 23, which isn't
slightly older,
yeah, just a little
not
bit.
too
Yeah,
much.
right. But there's a lot of really young people
Did they
in
look up to
basic
you, the other
training.
soldiers, like, hey, John?
They saw me as the older guy.
Yeah.
I was the older guy. There was one other dude that was older than me that was like shouldn't even really have been there. I think he got a waiver or something. Like global war on terrorism.
40s?
They're like, yeah, we'll take you. But yeah, to me, I think it gave me a little bit different perspective. I didn't get too emotional. I just kind of saw it for what it was.
Yeah.
And these guys, these drill sergeants, are just doing their job, and it's
They
their
are.
job to put stress on us, and they're playing mind games with us, and it's part of it. So
Yes, it is.
it was a good time for me. It was pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
really.
their job is literally turn a nobody into a soldier by
Right.
teaching you the common core basics of basic. That's why they call it basic training. So
Right.
you get the basics of the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what was your favorite part of basic?
My favorite part of basic, I think it was my battle buddies. I'd have to say it's always my favorite part of any experience is just the people that I meet and form bonds with and stuff like that. So
Are you still friends with any of your friends from?
Yeah, I still talk to a couple of people from basic
Wow.
training from 2003.
Wow, that's
yeah,
that's a good testament to your personality if you're able to maintain that type of relationship with somebody that was way back in 2003.
Well, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that will call you or text you or message you over the years, even if I don't hear anything from you, and
Oh, nice.
see how you're doing and hope to hang out again. And I have hung out with people from my deployments over the years, having little reunions and stuff like that. So
This is awesome.
yeah.
Now you are listening to John Laureles, who lives in Johnson County. He's our veteran for this episode. He's one hell of an incredible person. If you have any questions for him, please reach out, leave a comment. You can call in if you want. This person here has been through a lot of stuff. So, John, do you remember any of your drill sergeants from the boot camp?
I remember their faces and their voice.
You just
but
don't
I don't
remember
their
their
names. Yeah.
I remember most people usually remember that one drill sergeant that kind of sticks out, that actually wanted you to be a
Right.
soldier,
Yeah.
that wanted you to be better than you are.
Yeah.
And mine was Sergeant Gonzalez. He was a Special Forces E7. That dude was rock solid. He had the boot camp record for the fastest mile. And my goal the whole entire time was to make sure I beat him in that mile. And sure enough, on the last run, on the last day of the actual test, the PT test, I beat that score by like 10 seconds. And he was not happy about it because he thought he was always going to have that record.
Right.
So that was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a PT stud back then too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got 300 on my PT test. I must say proudly. Basic
That's
training.
awesome.
I was in
It's
the
very
A
hard to do that
A
in
group,
PT.
the A run group. You know, they're like the fastest
Yep.
group. They go further, faster, whatever. And there's been a couple times where I was like, maybe I'll just run with B, and I just didn't enjoy it as much. I
Yeah.
like to push it a little bit, and I had some good drill sergeants that really were always had a way to motivate us to push it a little bit
Yeah.
further, a little bit faster. So that was awesome.
So you graduate from boot camp and then you go to AIT. Where advanced individual training? Where did you go?
Yeah, AIT, Fort Sam Houston is where all the medics go,
That's
all the
right.
medical
All
people
go
go.
there.
Yeah, that was a really good time. It was nice to finally be, you know, where I was going to become a medic. I was really excited about that in basic training, and actually during basic training, that's when the U.S. invaded Iraq for the second time.
That's right.
And as you know, you don't really get any media or television or anything like that in basic training. At least you didn't then. I don't
Nope.
know how it is now,
I'm
but
sure maybe they have their cell phones.
they let us hear the announcements over the PA, and that was kind of not the 9/11 moment for me. You know, a lot of people when they saw that happen on 9/11, and that kind of moved them to join. For me, it was hearing the invasion of Iraq, and it's
Nice.
like, here we go.
All right, John. We'll be back in a little bit. We're going to take a little commercial break. We're going to talk to John and his life in the military right afterwards. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Accelerated Graphics and Science 101 East Renfro, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, can handle all of your graphic needs. Need a banner or promotional products for your business? They got you covered. T-shirts and caps for your group. All you need to figure out is if you want them screen printed or embroidered. How about some slick graphics on that hot ride to make you stand out from the crowd? Accelerated Graphics and Science can handle anything you throw at them. Located at 101 East Renfro Street, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, go in and see them. Call them at 817-991-0523 or reach them on the web at www.acceleratedgraphics.net. They are loud and proud and want to serve you. Accelerated Graphics.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Out of deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give him a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Welcome back to Vet for Vets. I am Angelo Rocha. We're here with my friend John Laureles, who is a combat veteran out of Johnson County. He is the founder of the local chapter of VFW in Cleburne, in case you didn't know that. So before we continue with our little talk with John, I just want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also free, available for free. Actually, you can download it, John. Believe it or not, go to the website, download the app on iPhones or your Androids, whatever you want. It's completely free. It's simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844 Tex Hail. 844 That's 839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's TheTiffie.com. That's actually Tiffany's store where you have a lot of little great stuff that if you have a wife or girlfriend or fiance that wants buy some interesting stuff, go to that website.
Thanks.
And also don't forget Christmas is coming up. So here you go.
There you go.
So John, you go to boot camp at Fort Leonard Wood, you go to your AIT in Fort Sam Houston.
Mhm.
Where is your first duty station?
Well, as National Guard, they just send me back home.
No, that's true.
So like I was saying before the break, when I was in basic training, they announced the invasion of Iraq, and that kind of hit home to me. You know, it's like this is what we're doing. This is what we're here to do.
Yeah.
And the kind of vision of National Guard, being a National Guardsman, medic, and helping hurricane situations and earthquake situations and humanitarian aid kind of faded away. And now I have this image of going to war in my head, and you know what I'm preparing for, and you know being there in basic training, they're training you to go to war. So it
Yeah.
really kind of hit home and solidified the fact that you know that's what we're for. And I was ready. I was really motivated at the time. You know, the drill
That was my
sergeants
next
have a
question. I
way-
was going to ask you, how was your first reaction when you found out you got orders to go to Iraq?
My initial reaction and feeling was that that's where I need to be. That's why I'm here.
Hmm.
And you know, as soon as I got to AIT at Fort Sam, I had called my old recruiter, and I told him, you know, I wanted to go to Iraq, and he was like, "Soldier, just worry about graduating AIT, and then we can
Mhm.
talk about it when you get home."
Nice.
And as soon as I graduated and got home, I told him, I was like, "You remember that conversation we had about me going to Iraq?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "I still want to go. How can you get me over there?" And he said, "Well, my buddy is a recruiter for Washington National Guard, and he told me that they got mobilized to go to Iraq, and they're getting ready to go right now. So if I give you an interstate transfer to Washington National Guard, then you'll get activated." I said, "Okay, let's do it." And that's what he
Nice.
did.
Were you scared or nervous when you first went over there?
No, I wasn't. I don't really remember being real nervous.
I wasn't nervous either.
Excited, I think, more than anything.
Almost everybody I knew, a lot of people weren't nervous. A lot of people wanted to go over there and go fight these terrorists that did what they did.
Right.
Even though at the time we didn't know that really Iraqi people had nothing really to do with
Yeah,
what
right,
happened on 9/11. It was actually the other country next door, Afghanistan
right,
and Pakistan and all them other countries. But somehow
Yeah.
we got
Right.
to Iraq.
Just
So
roll it all up into one giant war.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I was excited, and for me, being a transfer from Texas National Guard to Washington, I was on this trip, you know, kind of on my own, by myself. I just flew to Washington,
Yes.
not really knowing what to expect or knowing who to contact, or you know who's gonna take care of me or show me where to go.
Yeah.
So that was you know, I want to say a little bit nerve-wracking, but I don't really remember feeling super nervous about it. Just excited more than anything. And luckily I came in contact with all the right people, and they were able to show me, you know, show me the way to go. And then soon after, I linked up with my unit and the guys that I was going to be deployed with, and we did our pre-mob training together a little bit later than the unit. We were kind of a late deployment unit.
Yes, I gotcha.
And
Were you the only
it was
medic?
a smaller group.
Were you
There
the
was a
only-
couple other medics
there was
there
a couple
with
other
us,
ones?
Yeah.
Were you friends with any of them?
Yeah. Good friends with I made really good friends with a handful of guys there on the pre-mob, and got to stick with them all the way going into country, which was in 2004. they sent us to Balad, or at the time it was called Camp Anaconda.
Yeah, that's where
Balad
I
Air
was at. My
Base.
second deployment to Iraq. That's where I was at. LSA Anaconda, which was the largest base at the time.
Right.
It was so
Right.
huge. They had a big green zone, which you couldn't find anywhere else in any of the bases. A green zone, if you're listening, is basically an area of a base to where, regardless if they use a mortar or common mortars and RPGs, it still would not reach that area. So it's a green zone. And Camp LSA Anaconda had the biggest green zone in Iraq, and a lot of people didn't know that at the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Actually. No, I've been there.
There was actually one area where it had movie theaters, swimming
Oh,
pools,
yeah.
recreation centers, and it was
Yeah.
all in the green zone.
Well, you could say that it was a green zone, but the
You
mortars,
still got mortared.
the
I know.
mortars hit the PX, the theater,
Yep.
the gym, the building. There was a lot of mortars during that year, 2004. I think that's the year it was coined the nickname Mortaritaville. And yeah, lots of mortars when we were there. They assigned me to Delta Company 181 Brigade Support Battalion for the 81st BCT out of Washington. There in Balad, I worked at the North Entry Control Point, or the North Gate, which was a really, really interesting job, and I'm very thankful for that experience. Even though it was kind of like a gate guard kind of thing,
Yeah.
there was a lot of traffic, a lot of local national traffic, a lot of Iraqis walking into the gate through there,
Yeah.
driving into the gate through there. And so there was a lot of, personnel searching and a lot of dealing with the local populace. A lot of times they had injuries and illnesses and stuff like that they couldn't get help with their own local.
So they came to the base.
Yeah, so they came to
We,
the
we had
base.
that situations just like that, where which they never talk about on the news.
Right.
They never talk about all the times these Iraqis came to us asking for help.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was due to U.S. intervention. Sometimes it wasn't. But I'd always try to help any way that I could. And sometimes I got a little backlash from it, trying to get some of the local nationals pushed into our hospital because they have, greater resources than I did at the gate.
Yeah.
But I really did try to help them as much as I could. It was pretty devastating to see, the effects of war on a lot of the people there. I saw malnourished kids and stuff like that too.
Same here.
And so we did our best. And I was fortunate enough to be with some other really good soldiers that were empathetic to, their needs and helped me work with the clinics inside the base and with the hospital and with civil affairs to get them the help that they need.
Well, John, we have a question.
Okay.
Do you know an Aaron Gentry Evans?
Yes. I
Okay,
know, Aaron.
they have their question. Their question is for you, John. Are there any upcoming local events that the community can attend to learn more about joining the VFW and or auxiliary?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I was going to talk about the VFW
in a little bit.
in a
We were going to
bit.
get to it.
Yes,
We
we'll
were going to get to it.
Aaron. Thank you for the question, though. I'll be sure to answer that here in a bit. So yeah, for me, my experience there in Iraq was a little bit different from a lot of infantrymen that would go out, and anytime they had an encounter with Iraqis, or a lot of times it was kind of a negative,
Yeah.
a
I know
negative
exactly
scenario.
what you mean.
So it would leave a bad impression on them. But for me, working with the Iraqi National Guard, and helping to train them, and working with the local interpreters, and working with the local nationals coming in, I had a lot of interactions with them that weren't, necessarily negative.
Yeah.
And I got to see a real human side of them and the effects of war on the local population, and got to help. So that was kind of my experience and perspective that I gained from that deployment, and I'm really thankful for that. And I made a lot of good friends with the Iraqis from nearby villages. Some of them are interpreters, and I remained friends with them for years, and now they're actually in the States and doing very well for
That's good.
themselves. So that to me is really amazing, for somebody to go from, a war-torn country to America on their own.
That's their dream.
Yeah. And it's a lot of hard work. It's not easy making it here. It's expensive.
It's very
And,
expensive. Well,
I
I'd
kinda-
rather live in Texas than instead of California, where the rent is rocket,
Right.
skyrocketing high. I mean, it's unreal. People are leaving that state, come to states like Texas.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
how long were you in Iraq before you saw combat?
Well, I mean, direct combat, it took a minute. A lot of indirect combat because of all the mortars, and some came pretty close. A lot of time at the gate. Um, there was a lot of close indirect fire, some IEDs and some V beds, just outside of the gate where they actually come in, and there was a couple mass casualty incidences while I was there. Luckily, none of our guys got hurt, but a lot of the local nationals, a lot of the Iraqis, whenever they left the base, they got attacked, and so they were all brought right back into the gate, which was just 100 meters outside of where the gate was, or so. I don't know exactly how far, but not far. And so I was a medic there, and I had to kind of deal with that, all the casualties that I was receiving. Luckily, we had a couple other good medics forward of my position to do their triage and get them to where I was a little bit safer, and we could reevaluate them and get them evac into the hospital. But that was, I want to say, like 11 casualties that we treated and got evac'd out of there.
Yeah.
Um,
This
and
wasn't the one with the big mortar that dropped on on the cafeteria.
no, that was a different time. I was
Oh,
there
okay,
during
because
that
there was
year
one time
as
when
well.
one of them landed in the cafeteria in the chow hall and just
Yes.
killed a bunch of soldiers. Just landing there
I remember
precisely.
that. I was not able to respond to that mortar attack at the time, but I was able to respond to the mass casualty at the gate and to the VBED that was at the east gate, which was pretty nasty. But again, it was the Iraqi nationals that were affected by that. They were the casualties and not U.S.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, but for them, they weren't combatives. A lot of them weren't. I'm sure the VBED driver was, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was frustrating for me because I got stuck on a 113 pulling security
Oh, nice.
as a medic, and I'm like, I want to be out there, doing my medic thing, but
Yeah.
they had that covered. So,
Did you lose any good friends?
yes, I lost one of my real good friends, Belton Locklear. He was one of the first friends that I made pre-mobbing with Washington, and he was in a different unit once we got there. He was with Task Force Tacoma, and they did, the raids and patrols and all that stuff, which I was desperately trying to get over to that unit.
Yeah.
From the gate. And he made it through that deployment. Our friend McEwen did not, but it was his second deployment that got him, and that was pretty devastating for me. But it's unfortunately part of it. But we always remember him Memorial Day and throughout the year.
Did you ever see any enemies or combatants firsthand?
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of the time the infantry guys would bring in POW, or I guess they're POWs. Yeah. Detainees is what we called them, to the North Gate, and I would evaluate them and treat them. I actually came up with a couple SOPs while I was there,
Really?
because I saw that they weren't really being fully medically screened whenever they came to us. Maybe at the next place that they went, but not there at the gate, and that's really their first entry point or in custody of the U.S. Outside, besides them being detained outside the wire.
Yes.
And I felt the importance of, we got to check these guys out, make sure they don't have any serious injuries or communicable disease. A lot of times they had like body lice or scabies or something like that. And it's not something that, we want to have
Bring
to
it on
deal
to
with.
our soldiers will end up catching that
Right.
stuff.
Or they may have, medical problems to where, they need their insulin or something like that. And even though they are detainees, I treated everyone, the same as a medic, just looking out for their best care,
Yeah.
health.
Did you have any frightening experiences that you can recall? Something that you could still remember to this day, that while you were in Iraq?
Yeah, those definitely several times where, the shit hit the fan. Um, Being at the gate, at the North Gate, that was my first two deployments. I was there after my first deployment. I told my command that I wanted to volunteer for another deployment to extend with the following unit that was coming to replace us, and they approved it. So Washington left, and Hawaii National Guard took over, and that's when I had dealt with the mass casualty incident and a few other incidences there. And after that deployment, I volunteered to extend again, and I went with Wisconsin National Guard, and we did convoy security. And there, I encountered a couple IEDs. There was a truck that was on fire that got hit by an IED, and it blew up in front of me. And it was like in the movies where there's a
Slow
giant
motion.
flaming truck kind of just blasted off the ground and
Oh my goodness.
kind of blew me back a little bit. Those flaming debris falling all around me and stuff. So it was kind of surreal in a way. Um, I don't know if I really even seemed scared at the time. I was just kind of literally blown away.
You were probably reactive at the time. You were just
Right.
reacting to the moment.
Right.
But you think about it now and you're like, oh man, that was some
Yeah.
scary shit.
Yeah, exactly. And when that happened, this we're escorting a convoy of trucks, and the truck got hit with an IED, caught on fire. We were not far behind them. We saw it happen, and we pulled over to assist because the door was open. I assumed that the driver was injured and on fire. Maybe so I got out and was looking for him. I couldn't find him anywhere, and that's when the truck caught fire with the gas tank and blew up. The guy somehow had ran out of the truck and into another vehicle that was passing by. I don't know how he managed to escape unscathed. I was actually kind of disappointed that I didn't get to treat him. It's like, you don't even have a scratch that I can put a band-aid on. Like, I risked my life to try to save you, and you're fine. But yeah, that was a little bit scary. A couple other times, just on convoys at night, IEDs. I volunteered for another deployment after that, and
You're just a volunteering son of a gun, aren't you?
ended up with Michigan National Guard, who attached me to the Air Force Security
Okay,
Forces.
so we're down to 47 states now. You've already been
Right.
attached to.
So yeah, it was really interesting to work with the Air Force Security Forces. They had
Yeah.
trained up, the same as the Army did to fill in for them and their Iraqi police transition mission.
Yeah.
So they were training the Iraqi police in Baghdad. This was 2006, and it was a pretty rough time during the war. It was like the peak of the Civil War happening. We're right in the middle of it in Baghdad. Sunnis against Shias, corruption within the government, and Iraqi police were being
There was a
targeted.
lot of corruption.
We're working with Iraqi police. We're targeted, from all sides. And my vehicle actually got hit with an IED during that deployment, and that shook me up a bit. Luckily, everybody was okay, just a little bit scratched up. And I felt fortunate enough to be in that same vehicle with them when that happened, because I was able to treat them right away.
Yeah.
And, if I was in another vehicle, it would just be like being in that 113, like,
Yeah.
put me in, coach. I'm supposed to be over here, but I can't get there. But I was there, and that was good.
So you go through your deployments, you come back to the States. How do you feel after you come back to the States? Did you, if you don't want to share, it's fine. Do you feel like you suffered PTSD? Do you feel like you've suffered with anxiety? Do you feel like you suffer from stress, from having to deal with the?
Yeah, definitely all those things. I think that everyone does to some degree that's been downrange.
You're right.
And I think one of the first things that I really noticed was I just really missed all my buddies that I was deployed with, my military family. And I had that sort of longing for that camaraderie. And I kind of realized that you don't really fit into the same shoes the same way. as when you left. Your
Yeah.
perspectives change. Your perspectives change so much to where it affects you, and you see the world a lot differently. And I think that is what makes it hard for a lot of people to adjust to.
And is that the reason why you decided to start the chapter of VFW in
It
Cleburne?
is. It is. I had that longing for camaraderie and to be with other,
Did you find it?
military brothers and sisters. And, I was experiencing some of the post deployment type things.
Yeah, the
Like,
postpartum deployment where you're
yeah,
just like, it's like a
exactly.
child when they grows up too fast and you're just kind of like
Yeah.
missing them, even
Yeah.
though
Right. Like, who am I now?
Yeah.
All my buddies back home, they welcome me home and were glad to see me, but I was almost a different person. And it was kind of hard to communicate with them about my experiences sometimes. So I wanted to talk with other people that have been there and experienced the same type of thing. And so that's why I decided to start my own VFW chapter here. And I considered other veteran organizations, but the VFW, I think, was something that, to me, it stood out because it had been here longer than the rest, and it was well established and does a lot of really good things, locally and nationally. And
Do you want to
so,
talk
yeah.
about your chapter of VFW to the people that are listening or watching, maybe discussing some events coming up, or
Yeah,
maybe you can talk to them about help that some of
Sure.
them are looking for, because some
Right.
people are missing that thing. They're missing something. They don't know what they're missing,
Exactly.
but they don't realize they have a VFW or other associations
Right.
like Eagle Posts. You can get attached to veterans that have been through the same experiences you
Right.
have, and all of a sudden you'll feel better because you're able to talk it out.
Yes, and like I said, I was experiencing all those things, and a bit of a void. I think I felt like I served a purpose when I was overseas, and when I got home, there was
You were missing it.
I was missing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed to have a purpose and to do some good, and the VFW was a way for me to do that. And I think that it's been a great outlet for a lot of people that are experience that sort of void, and wanting to serve a purpose. It gives them that opportunity to do that, and really any way that they want to.
Yeah. How
Um,
many members do you have right now in your post?
right now we're over 60, still a pretty small post, but we're still establishing ourselves. It took me actually a couple of years to get the charter, just to get enough people sign up to have one. And once I got that going, then I had to learn all the rules about the VFW
Yep.
as a nonprofit, and how the board is basically, are the officers, and what is it, Robert's rule or whatever, with all that crazy meeting talk stuff.
Yeah.
Not my favorite part of it, but what was my favorite part of it was meeting other veterans and making that connection and forming that bond, and talking to each other about things that only we could really understand, that other people that haven't been through it wouldn't really know exactly. And just being able to support each other and to fill that void and be able to do something good, and continue to serve our country through community.
I ask every veteran that comes on my show this: if you can have a child or somebody of young stature in front of you, and he wanted to know what an actual veteran is and what it means to be a veteran, what would you tell them
Oh,
for the listener?
what
He's
is
sitting
a
there. He's like,
veteran?
Mr. Laureles, what does it mean to be a veteran? What would you say to him?
I would say a veteran is someone who has served their country and has, signed the dotted line to do whatever their country asks them to do. And a lot of times that is war. They're asked to go to war. And a lot of veterans are war veterans, such as myself. And there's a lot of pride in being able to serve your country, but even more pride in serving alongside your brothers and sisters and looking out for each other there. So to me, it's great to serve your country, but it doesn't have to end there. You could serve your community and have just as great, if not greater, impact on lives than going to war.
That's pretty cool. John, you've been awesome. If there's anything you want to talk about, maybe that I didn't bring up? If you
Yeah,
want to mention anything?
the VFW, we're always looking for new members. If you've been deployed in support of a war and are in the Johnson County area, please reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook. Just search VFW. We're the VFW Auburn Burgess Memorial Post. We have coffee with veterans every Saturday at 10 a.m. at Weston Grill. Anyone's welcome to join us. You could bring your family.
Nice.
It's a great way just to connect and get to know each other and, talk story. Every second Sunday of each month, we have our meetings at 5 o'clock at the St. Mark's Methodist Church. Our auxiliary is also looking for members for those of you that are family members of a veteran.
Thank you, everyone. That was John Laureles, the founder of the VFW chapter in Cleburne. Thank you so much for listening to Vet for Vets. I'm Angelo Rocha, and have yourself a really great night. Thank you.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County.